Sub-battles, the untold stories of Greyhound. This video is intended solely for educational and documentary purposes. It contains no ideological or political messaging. The ocean holds many secrets. Some sank beneath the waves, others never surfaced at all. This is the story of a war fought in silence, of ships that vanished without a trace, of men who listened for death in the hum of sonar and answered with depth charges. This is the untold story of the Atlantic War, the Greyhounds, and the wolves they hunted. It began with darkness, not just nightfall, but confusion. 1942. The Battle of the Atlantic was in full swing. Convoys crossed from America to Britain, bringing food, oil, weapons, hope. They were lifelines, and the U-boats knew it. The Germans called it the Tonnage War. Sink enough cargo, and the Allies would starve. They unleashed their submarines in packs, wolves of steel, prowling the North Atlantic in silence. And it worked. By the end of that year, Allied shipping losses hit record levels. Merchant ships were sinking faster than they could be built. Convoys were organized, groups of 30, 40, sometimes 70 ships, all moving together. Their only protection, lightly armed destroyers and corvettes, small, fast, and never enough. Enter the Greyhound, a destroyer escort driven by discipline and instinct. Its mission: protect the convoy at all costs, detect threats, track periscopes, fight off an enemy it couldn't see. The men aboard lived with constant pressure, long hours, frozen hands, no sleep, eyes locked on sonar screens, ears tuned for anything unusual, a faint ping, a sudden silence, a missed heartbeat. The U-boat captains knew this too. Men like Otto Kretschmer, Günther Prien, Joachim Schepke, legends of the deep. They struck at night, surfaced between the ships, fired torpedoes point blank, then disappeared beneath the waves. One U-boat could sink 3, 4, even 5 ships in a single patrol, and then radio home. The sea is clean. But the sea never stayed clean for long. The Allies adapted. They deployed ASDIC, an early form of sonar. They mounted HF/DF gear, Huff Duff, to intercept U-boat communications. They built escort carriers. They patrolled the skies. Still, it wasn't enough. February 1943. A distress signal reaches the destroyer, USS Campbell. A freighter had spotted something, shadow in the mist. The sonar couldn't confirm, but the captain made a choice. He ordered the drop. A pattern of depth charges fell into the sea. Moments later, a plume. A U-boat surfaced in agony. U-606, its hull cracked, struggling to dive. Campbell's gunners didn't wait. They opened fire. The sea boiled. The boat disappeared for good. That was one kill, but there were hundreds more. U-boats were clever. They dropped decoys, broadcast false signals, lured escorts away from convoys. Sometimes they hunted in daylight. Other times they waited offshore. April 1942. U-123 surfaced just miles from the coast of Georgia. In plain view, it sank 2 American ships. No warning, no mercy. For the first time, war touched American soil. It was a wake-up call. No one was safe. From that point on, the U.S. Navy mobilized with fury. Hundreds of new ships, thousands of sailors, training accelerated. Technology rushed to the front. They built destroyer escorts like the USS England that would go on to sink 6 submarines in 12 days, a record never broken. But even legends bled. Escort ships were not invincible. One well-placed torpedo, and they split in half. Many ships sank with no distress call, no survivors, just oil slicks and silence. The men aboard lived with ghosts. Some days they heard cries from the water, sailors who never made it to the lifeboats. Other days they sailed through wreckage fields, floating cargo, burned bodies, broken wood. There were no good choices, only faster ones. The convoys moved like cities. They stretched for miles. One mistake, one ship breaking formation, and the whole system fell apart. That's what U-boats waited for. A ship out of line, a gap in the escort screen, a moment of doubt, and then impact. By May 1943, the Allies struck back. They began to win, not just battles, but momentum. They sank 41 U-boats that month alone. Crews celebrated quietly. They knew it wasn't over. Inside a U-boat, the world was smaller, cramped, hot, stale air. No light, no sound, except the creak of pressure and the hum of machinery. Every hour spent underwater drained morale. Many U-boat sailors never saw daylight during entire patrols, and when depth charges hit, the walls groaned, the lights flickered, and the fear was physical. One survivor said, "We didn't breathe, we waited to be crushed." But they kept going. Many U-boat men were only 19, 20 years old. They believed in their mission, until the ocean took them. By the end of the war, over 30,000 German submariners were dead. More than 75% casualty rate, the highest of any branch in the German military. And yet, the Allied sailors knew they were not monsters. They were men, just like them. One final encounter, Convoy ONS-5, a brutal clash in the icy North Atlantic. Escorts and U-boats fought for days. The sea turned red, smoke hung in the air, snow mixed with ash. When it was over, 6 Allied ships gone, but 7 U-boats were sunk. It was a turning point. The wolfpack had been broken. Admiral Dönitz pulled his boats back. Regroup, regret, reconsider. The war in the Atlantic was shifting, and the Allies were now in control. The convoys kept coming, thousands of ships, millions of tons of cargo, the arteries of victory. Without them, there would be no D-Day, no liberation, no Europe. One British commander sent this message to London: "They are gone, we remain. Convoy safe." They never asked for thanks. They just held the line. The men on the Greyhounds, American, British, Canadian, slept in wet clothes, ate cold rations, stood watch in storms. They buried friends at sea, fought through fatigue, and stayed sharp when failure meant the end. History may not remember their names, but we remember their silence, their resolve, their war without glory. They were the shield, they were the edge, they were the calm between torpedoes, they were the ones who never flinched.